Let's talk about self-loathing. You know, that quiet little voice in your head, the one that whispers feelings of inadequacy and can totally undermine your happiness before you even know what's happening. Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on that internal struggle and look at the signs, both big and small, that it's showing up in our lives. Does that question kind of hit home for you? That nagging feeling that you're just not quite good enough or that your biggest dreams are meant for someone else? If it does, you are definitely not alone. This feeling is super common, and it's actually a huge clue to a much deeper pattern that we're about to unpack. So, what are we really talking about here? Self-loathing isn't just having a bad day or feeling insecure for a moment. No, it's a much more intense, deep-seated dislike for yourself. And it can show up as anger, self-sabotage, and just a really negative way of looking at the world. Getting this definition straight is the first crucial step to actually identifying it. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the signs that pop up in our inner world, our thoughts and feelings. Then, we'll see how those feelings actually translate into our actions out in the real world. And finally, and this is the most important part, we'll talk about the very first steps you can take to make a change. Okay, first up, let's look inward. See, self-loathing really begins in the mind. It shapes that constant internal monologue, that little voice that's always running in the background of our lives. This is where all the patterns are born. So, the first major sign is when you basically become your own worst critic. Now, there's a difference between healthy self-reflection that helps us grow and this. This is a relentless, punishing inner voice that finds something wrong with literally everything you do. And look at how this actually plays out. It's not just being in a bad mood, it becomes a daily habit. You might find you're always the first person to take the blame, or you fixate on the tiniest little mistake while completely ignoring something you did well. It's a vicious cycle that just feeds those feelings of guilt and worthlessness. And from there, that inner critic starts to spill over and kind of poison your social world. It shows up as this constant sinking feeling that you just don't measure up. And it's all driven by this relentless habit of comparing yourself to literally everyone else. This is so much more than just simple envy. It's a core belief that you will never be as good as them. So when you see people who are happy or successful, it doesn't inspire you, it just makes you feel worse. Your focus gets totally locked on everything you think you're missing. And all of this internal negativity leads to something really subtle, but incredibly powerful. You actually start to actively push away happiness. It's almost like you've gotten so comfortable with feeling bad that joy just feels weird or unfamiliar, or maybe like you don't even deserve it. This totally warps how you see reality. A compliment feels suspicious, right? Like someone's making fun of you. But criticism? Oh, that feels right. That makes sense because it just confirms what you already believe about yourself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, to the point where you might even push away help because on some level you feel like you deserve to struggle. Okay, let's shift gears. We've talked about the inner world, but how does all this self-hate actually show up in your actions, in your day-to-day life? Well, one of the most obvious signs is when you neglect your own self-care. This is when you just don't give yourself the same basic kindness and attention that you would freely give to a friend or your pet or even a houseplant. And when you see it side by side like this, it's really stark, isn't it? You'll do anything to make sure the people you love are happy and healthy. But for yourself, the basics, sleep, good food, exercise, they just go out the window. And this usually isn't about being too busy. It's rooted in a feeling that you just don't deserve to be taken care of. It's probably no surprise that this feeling of being undeserving also pushes you to isolate yourself. The logic is as simple as it is tragic. If you don't like yourself, why would anyone else? And that fear makes you pull away from the exact connections that could actually help you heal. And the why behind this is it's truly heartbreaking. You start to feel like you're a burden. You convince yourself that people are always judging you, or that honestly they'd just be better off without you around. So what do? You push love and support away, creating the exact loneliness you're so afraid of. And on those times when you can't isolate, when you have to interact with the world, you wear a mask. The shame is so deep that you hide your real self, and you create this whole other person that you think is more likable or will fit in better. Yeah, this quote it cuts right to the heart of it. This isn't just about being a little shy or adaptable. It's a defense mechanism. It's an exhausting performance that's all driven by this core belief that the real you is fundamentally unlovable. This really highlights that painful split, doesn't it? When you're alone, you're stuck with this person you're ashamed of. But in public, it's performance time. You're constantly trying to be someone else, anyone else, just to avoid being rejected.
And finally, all of this, it all builds up to our seventh and final sign.
Because at the end of the day, self-loathing is the ultimate dream killer. It's that internal voice that convinces you that you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not deserving enough of success, so you just stop trying. And this is where potential goes to die. You literally smother your own dreams because that voice is always whispering, why even bother? You're just gonna fail anyway. The fear of rejection becomes so huge that you choose to stay safe in your comfort zone instead of taking a chance on growth. Okay, recognizing these signs can feel really heavy. I get that. But here's the most important thing I want you to take away from this. Awareness is not a life sentence. It is the exact opposite. It's the doorway to change. Just seeing the pattern is the first, and honestly, the most powerful step you can possibly take. So what does that path forward actually look like? Well, it really starts with these three things. First, awareness. Hey, just by watching this and seeing these patterns, you've already started the work. Second, patience. Look, these are deeply ingrained habits, and unlearning them is a journey, not a sprint. Be kind to yourself. And third, support. You do not have to do this alone. Reaching out to a friend or a family member or a mental health professional is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate sign of strength. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. Now that you can see the signs, can you start to see where they might be coming from? Whether it's in yourself or in someone you care about. Just remember that this awareness, this is where the healing truly begins. Go ahead and take that first step.